Hey guys, welcome to the end of the year.
Welcome to the end of the year. That's a good one.
Thank you very much for joining us on episode 42. So we almost did 52 weeks, except 10. So I don't even know why I even said that. You know what? Just welcome to the show. Of course, with me are our usual hosts, Sam, and of course, Mr. Juan Bagnell. How's it going, guys?
Hello.
It's going great.
Good. So we are back. We had Christmas break. Everyone's here except Warren's trying to get in. And this show is going to be lean, clean, and lots of stuff. So I was wondering if we should talk about the Apple fiasco as we tie it into a lot of our big uselessnesses of the year. So guys, if you have any in the chat, do submit that. We have, of course, a couple of options, but I guess we could start with Apple and then we can continue with other things. So Apple finally came out and admitted that they have been slowing down your iPhones for years. And due to, the whole battery thing and all that, and Apple came out, just to summarize it, and I know Juan will give me a better definition because I just looked in and said, Apple came out and said, hey, you know what, we're sorry we did this, and you can now replace those batteries, and instead of it costing you $50, it will cost you $29.
And I think the battery replacement was 80.
Yeah, sorry, 80. Sorry, it will cost you $29, right? So we're giving you a discount of around $50 or so, something like that. So my own reaction is, what the fudge? Seriously, like that shouldn't cost me anything. You should just replace it, and you should get sued, which is what's going on right now.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like it's tricky. I understand why a battery replacement still costs something. But what we're talking about is a company that's flush with liquid assets, trying to make sure that their image is as untarnished as possible, especially for a company that depends so much on their lifestyle branding, outside of just their tech branding. So I think it would have been a great goodwill gesture. But even for those missteps, we know that there are a number of people out there in the iOS community who are still on phones like the iPhone 5S, and that was the cutoff. So it starts with the iPhone 6 and up that they'll be covering these battery replacements. I think Apple is emblematic, this right here, of a major problem that numerous companies had this year, which was disclosure. That there had just been something buried in the terms of service that you agreed to, that humongous document that no one ever reads, that this would be something that they would do to maintain the stability of their products, then no one would have batted an eye. And most people would probably, not most, but many people would have been echo chambering how this is a good thing that Apple does this. It was the fact that Apple tried to do this under the radar that made it look like it was something shady. I mean, think about every single time Apple changes something that they don't need to change, you've got all the apologists out there saying like, oh no, it's good that Apple does this. If Apple had just disclosed this from the beginning, or had put in like some sort of placebo switch in the settings, I want the full power of my phone, even if it costs me battery life, then I don't think anyone would have thought that this was a big deal. It's just the perfect climate right now for people to be sensitive about companies mucking with products and mucking with data and trying to do things in secret, that it kind of blew up in Apple's face.
I partially disagree. I look at this as Apple. I mean, not partially. I disagree. No, not partially.
No, I wholeheartedly totally disagree.
That I'm talking, I go from partially disagreeing to completely.
Yeah, I mean, look, Apple to me just downright screwed its customers so they can capitalize on the same base that they have. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Apple purposely slowed down your iPhone so you buy a new iPhone, or at least you spend money within the ecosystem.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that. What I'm saying is the problem wasn't the behavior. The problem is the disclosure.
See, my problem is the behavior
anyway. But if they had just said it up front, Apple fans would have said, well, this is why your Samsung slows down and mine doesn't, and blah, 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 blah.
No. I hear you on that part. my problem is the behavior from the very beginning. Like that's the kind of stuff that I just don't like, you know. So the disclosure to me is also half-assed, but I'm like, whatever. To the point, like you already committed evil. So your evil is just continuing in my mind. For me, it's the fact that they actually went with that process instead of giving. Again, this is another situation.
Okay,
They're not
guys,
giving
I
iPhone users
think
the best iPhones.
let's take a step back and let's try to
Okay,
let's rephrase the question. Apple admits that it doesn't know how to turn off new features for older devices. How about that be the headline? Because that makes the whole excuse bullshit. Okay, you're telling me that the software can't tell the difference between a 7, a 6S, and a 5? Come on. So you slow down the battery for everything that came before just so every feature could work properly? For Christ's sakes, turn off the damn features on the older phones and keep the battery as is.
But
no,
Sam,
they're pushing it to sell more phones. Simple. That's all it is.
I agree with your outcome. I think one of the issues that Apple's running into here is it's not necessarily whether or not new features are more power intensive. It's that as the battery degrades, the chipset, because Apple uses fairly powerful chipsets. They're almost always a full generation ahead of Qualcomm in terms of just raw processing power. But you look at the smaller iPhone. This is what makes me so cynical about a company like Apple. You look at the smaller iPhone, and it's got the bare minimum battery capacity for that phone to last the day when brand new.
Yeah.
There is no buffer for when that phone ages. And so as a battery degrades, the amount of power it can push out in any given time also gets reduced. So you have to throttle the CPU because the battery might literally not be able to feed it enough power in the moment that those processors spike. And so this becomes one reason why you might want to upsell from the smaller iPhone to the iPhone Plus. And then even the iPhone Plus, that's kind of a small battery for a larger phone. So then over the 2 years, it's also going to face some kind of reduction in power. It's just probably not going to be quite as severe as the smaller iPhone. And then from there, right around that 2-year time period where everything's falling apart on that phone, wouldn't you know it, that's when most consumers are looking to shop a new phone. So instead of replacing the battery, going through that hassle, you can just get a whole brand new shiny widget that you can play with. And that to me is the psychology which is so insidious about how Apple has positioned their products, because there's no competition. Those people aren't looking to switch teams and go to an Android device. If I'm pissed off at Samsung, I can go LG, HTC, OnePlus, Huawei. I have competition for my ecosystem. Apple has a de facto monopoly on iOS.
No, I definitely agree. I think that, like I said, that goes back to my main point of the evil, and I'm going to call it the evil planning of iPhones, where Apple basically says, we will create an iPhone with the barest minimum battery so that, like you said, the whole process will lead to you getting, you have to buy another iPhone. Like, it's not that you want to, or you have, like you said, you like on the Android side where you can go, screw you, Samsung, TouchWiz is just ruining my life. I'm going to stock Android, or I'm going to Huawei with a big battery, or I'm going to OnePlus with better optimization, or whatever have you. Apple says, no, you are our pawns, you are our scapegoats. I'm talking to all of you iOS users out there. I'm sorry. You have been gypped, you have been swindled, you have been called fools. Because this is what Apple is saying. And some people might say, no, it's a design philosophy. No, it's called planning. This is what companies do. And they've done it the worst way now. Samsung could be doing something horrible too. When we find that out, yeah, I'll curse them out too. But at this point in time,
I think, well, no. We can easily call out most Android manufacturers' planned obsolescence. If you're on Samsung, then the planned obsolescence is, oh, you want that new software update that Google was trumping? Well, you got to buy a new phone.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Or wait 5 years for the update.
Exactly. But it's the same. So I'm calling out Apple's evil nature for all you iOS.
Oh man, you went straight to evil, man. Dang.
No, it is. And look, to me, it's the most condescending way, because you have an ecosystem of uneducated buyers. Yes.
Oh. Damn!
Well, don't forget,
you just went after everyone.
No. I mean, this is where I completely agree with that sentiment. Is Apple as a company built part of their new consumer philosophy on we're going to make it easy. It just works. We manage these things. You don't have to worry about what's going on your phone. You touch Square, get app, everything, the phone should blend into the background of your day. And so when you cultivate that and then you build a sort of a monopolistic business practice for that entrenched consumer base, it becomes really easy to take advantage of those consumers. There's too much money involved not to take advantage of that goodwill that you've earned. And so, again, this could have been solved by disclosure. Pop up in your settings, buried 3 menus deep, saying, well, we had to throttle your phone because your battery has aged to a certain point, and if you'd like the full performance of your phone, you can go to an Apple store and schedule a time with one of our geniuses to have a battery replacement, and will cost you $90. It's just like an oil change. But they couldn't even do that because the emotional response of the gadget, that's already too much management for what they have been advertising their products as needing. And so this is going to be another major situation. But I wonder, and I seriously doubt, but I wonder, will this convince anyone not to do business with Apple? Because I think this is going to be another thing people are going to get pissed off about. It's going to have a full news cycle. Then they're going to sort of like grumble about it. And then just like removing the headphone jack or getting rid of Touch ID, they're, well, I guess this is just what I need to do, instead of examining their opportunities for doing business with another company. That's, I feel like we're going to make a lot of noise about this because we care about the industry and we care about the market. And Apple fans are going to make a lot of noise for about a minute, and then we're going to go back to business as usual.
I definitely agree. Warren, thanks for joining me, man. What's your thoughts?
Is this on the whole Apple thing?
Yeah, the whole battery slowdown and like I said, the evil plan.
I wouldn't call it an evil plan, even though it comes off that way. This is the problem when they don't, like, from a technical standpoint, what they're doing actually makes sense. Where like, oh, we release these software updates. We know we're releasing this on older devices. Older devices have less battery on them, so maybe we want to do something to make sure we don't kill the experience, but so much to try and make their phones last longer. Is maybe the technical idea out of clocking down a processor on an older phone.
One question is every year, do they change the size of the battery on the iPhone? Or no?
I don't think so.
It has been no. From the iPhone 6 to the iPhone 8, it has creeped up, but we're talking, I think, between 3 and 5% increases. The 6S was actually was actually, I think, a slightly more significant increase because that's when they started going to quad core. It might be the 6S or the 7.
Okay, so basically it's almost the same size battery as far as I'm concerned. If it's not past 10%, then it doesn't matter.
And we're still talking about, because they went to that quad core A series, that they still put in the bare minimum battery capacity for that new powerful phone. So people were saying, oh, we got a bigger battery, and you're like, no. You have probably the same or less runtime as the phone that came before it because the hardware just got so much more powerful.
Sorry, Warren, please continue. I just wanted to clarify that fact.
As I was saying,
yeah.
You guys asked. I was going to say.
From a technical standpoint, it actually makes sense to extend the life of previous devices that you're still supporting software for. The issue becomes is how you present a very technical idea to non-technical people, and this is where they miss Steve Jobs in being able to present this type of information and not come off as complete and utter asses.
Oh, I disagree already.
And they've already come out. And I've already come out.
Let
me finish my point, damn it.
That's what happens when you show up late. Sorry.
Damn it. Oh, jeez. All right. There could have been a better way to present this where the hoopla doesn't go all off. And
I think Warren's bringing up some great points in this rant right now. I really agree with what he has to say. I'm going to stop now.
Stop cutting Warren up. He's going to go all Warren Postal on you.
Sorry.
We're just going to go, let's do this.
I'm waiting for that.
You people annoy me.
Strikes in the center.
You people annoy me. Anyways, the way they presented this was just, I was trying to sum the way they presented this is just horrible. And like I said, from a technical standpoint, it makes logical sense. It would have been great if they'd have been probably more transparent about why they do that, what's the reasons, and being more upcoming about it, which would have prepared their users to make a decision of either buying the new phone, knowing that this is going to happen to the phone, maybe choose not to update, or maybe waiting to get a refresh on the battery by going into the Apple Store before they do the update, because maybe Apple could have scored some points by getting some people to actually go into the store to refresh the battery if they known that if their phone's going to get clocked down because of the battery essentially not having enough juice as it once did before when you initially had it. So they could have lost them. They could have gained themselves about maybe 90 or $100 a pop for people that could have been in preparation of trying to extend their phones a little bit longer. So it turns into this whole, look at Apple, I'm not crazy, my phone is slowing down, and these jerks did do this to me, and they do have planned obsolescence, and the narrative just runs away from itself. Is it going to hurt them and damage them in any way? Hell no. These people, the Apple people are Apple people. They will just take what it is. They're mostly too afraid to try and change or do anything different because they're just locked into the ecosystem and they're so used to it, so they're just going to follow the sheep and just go with what it was. You'll get a few people, class action lawsuit will happen. We'll hear next year at some point what the word will be about that, and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I think this affects Apple in no real large way. It's why it's kind of hard to rant on it, because it's not gonna be deemed as this hugely negative. It's a hugely negative thing to us because we're not drinking the Kool-Aid. But this story already isn't going afire as it would if Samsung was doing this, where all the other media outlets would be blowing this up, writing every expose piece they could possibly write about it, every video they could possibly talk about this. They would be completely trying to expose Samsung for this because it's on Team Android, but but with Team Apple and the Apple people threatened, the Apple folks out there threatened by their Apple privilege and getting phones first because of things that have happened recently, and they're not going to want to necessarily rock the boat. So that's why, if you notice, how much have we heard about this outside of the few people in the tech space that are not Apple centric talking about it? And Gadget, I think, posted something, and that's all you're going to hear. Virgil posts something, that's all you're going to hear. You're not going to get these lengthy exposés talking about this stuff, and that's where I feel that it's just not going to affect Apple too much. People that are Apple fans are like, well, I'm not crazy, they are slowing my phone down, and that's the checkbox that they get out of it.
Yeah, I agree. Evil company, evil plan, and that's.
The thing is, I won't call it I will not call it an evil plan. It's not an evil plan because it ends up being better off because it could just.
What do you mean better off?
Well, look at it this way. Look at it this way.
Stop that.
No. I'm about to drop some logic on you.
That is not a better plan because you already built it into play that they have to upgrade. Because you're not even.
No. I'm gonna drop some logic on you.
I can't even hear one sentence, man. Okay, Warren, you have 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds, Warren.
I'm about to drop some logic on you. The reason that it makes sense because they could have just allowed that to just be as fast as it was. People's phones are running out faster. It would either force them to upgrade sooner, which would have been a lot more evil of a situation, and that's actually far more heavy of planned obsolescence to go, yeah, you want the new software. If we're killing your phone now, you got to go buy a new one. Instead, the phone extends a little bit longer. They get to keep it for 2 or 3 years. They get to keep the resale value on it as well too, which allows them to then go and buy a new phone at a much cheaper price. That's why I mean, like, the evil plan could have been what the Android folks do and just drop the goddamn software on there, screw optimizing it for older devices, and if it L's your battery, just go buy something new. That's what happens on the Android side of things.
Okay, here's the evil plan because you missed it since you showed up late. Very simple. They built a phone with a battery with a bare minimum because the plan is you will have to do this. If you actually gave somebody a 1100 milliamp battery, whatever the tiny ass battery is inside the iPhone, and something more useful, you won't run into these problems. Simple.
I think they put
this way so that you will buy.
Different reason.
Okay.
No.
Can I finish?
Warren.
You know what? Let's just move on to another topic.
They put smaller batteries in it because because it's better for the bottom line. That's why they put smaller batteries. Bigger batteries cost more, eat more into the profit of the phone. That's why they put the bare minimum.
No, it
batteries
doesn't
inside.
eat that much between a 1200 and 1800.
We are talking Apple.
No. We're talking Apple. No. This is where I agree with Warren. Like Apple consumers also sort of understand that their product is the best because their company is the most profitable, which means they'll be around longer. And so going from a 1200 milliamp hour battery to a 2000 milliamp hour battery might cost 3 cents per unit. And so they're looking at the millions of units that they're trying to sell, and their only goal here is to provide as much possible value for their shareholders, not pay taxes, and then funnel all of that cash into offshore accounts so that they also don't have to pay taxes while they move their company headquarters from the United States to Ireland so that they'll be charged less taxes, and then they won't even pay those taxes. So if you're going to say that, oh, well, it's only going to cost this much to go from 1200 to 1800 milliamp hour, you've already failed for Apple. Apple won't pay it. They won't pay that.
It's all about they're a company with a lot of folks out there with current master's degrees in business. It's all about doing the cheapest thing possible to earn the most amount of profit. So if they can skimp on anything that they can out there, including freaking headphone jacks, they will do that if it means to equal that it's going to make more money for them to do so.
Well, we're going to spend all this money to buy Beats, and then the next generation of phones we put out, we're going to make sure they don't have headphone jacks to maximize on our investment of Beats.
On that note, quick news: Apple is slashing forecast for the iPhone X. Yes, which means less money for them. Thank you very much.
Apple is what? What'd you say?
He's slashing forecast for the iPhone X.
So from what we can tell, because Apple never really puts out sales numbers, but what we can tell from shipping numbers that the iPhone X actually isn't selling poorly, but it is being outpaced by the combination of the iPhone 8. So I want to say it's selling better than the iPhone 8 and it's selling better than the iPhone 8 Plus, but the two together are outperforming it.
Yeah, but I think this is something that we said already way back when this came out. The whole idea of making an 8, an 8 Plus, and then an X at the same time, one is going to take a hit over the other ones. And yes, even if the X is selling more than everyone else, it just makes sense that, combined, the people who don't see a value in paying almost $1,000 or paying $1,000 for a phone, would outpace people who are willing to shell out that kind of money. It just makes sense. Apple kind of did this to itself.
Yeah. All right. Any more big uselessnesses of the year? We know net neutrality is one.
Oh, I got 5, man. I got my 5 right here. I got my 5 right here.
No, that's 5 top tech, not useless. Unless you have
no. These are like top tech news / uselessness, man.
Okay.
Like for the whole damn year. Okay.
Right.
Now
we're waiting.
Oh, we're gonna start off with YouTube. Okay. YouTube Kids. That whole scandal to me was just like. It was an indication that YouTube have probably lost a step. Okay, the whole idea that we had the adpocalypse during the summer, and then all of a sudden we realized that what YouTube did to creators for their regular YouTube site was not done to creators for their YouTube Kids site. It shows a huge gap in just analytical skills. Like someone should have thought that maybe what we're doing on our main site should basically apply across the board. No one really thought about that. So I think that's a huge fail on YouTube's end. Then I'll go with Equifax next. Okay.
Oh,
seriously. Seriously, Equifax. And then the way to try to fix stuff was to make you pay for stuff as well. Like, hey, we screwed up, but if you pay us some more money, we'll take care of you. Like, oh, wow, we got gangster like that, huh? Like, look, that vase in your store fell down. If you pay me some more money, nothing like this will happen again. It's like, come on, Equifax. Like, we're not all living in 1960s Chicago, okay? And then Facebook, Twitter. Seriously, this is one of the ones that really, really kind of disturbs me a lot, right? So you have Facebook and Twitter, and you have all these whole fake news allegations, right? But you have a company like Facebook and a company like Twitter that boasts having some of the greatest developers, some of the greatest minds on the planet. And I'm not over exaggerating saying this is some of the greatest minds on the planet working for these companies, and they can't draw a correlation between a payment from Russia and an ad that is political in another country. What the is wrong with these companies? Like seriously,
because
like,
they don't look at algorithms. It's just set it and forget
but their whole company, or these guys' companies, their whole business models are driven off of algorithms. So it's like you're part of a world that you don't really truly understand, and that's a little disturbing. Because if you can manipulate those platforms, you can manipulate your users. So at the end of the day, the way we think or the way we interact with each other, with each other, can be basically manipulated by foreign entities buying ads on these platforms that we use. And that, to me, that's very disturbing. I think I'm at 3 now, right?
Is that 4? I think that's
3. But that was 4. Oh, that was 4.
Keep going.
All right, then let's get to Uber, which I think, to me, Uber is the biggest fail of the year. Right, when you start off with like Susan Fowler's allegation against Uber for sexual harassment, you go to the whole start of this year that when we had the whole delete Uber movement. You have God dang it, this Waymo suing Uber for stealing their technology for self-driving cars, and then on top of all of that, towards the end of the year, we find out that Uber had a massive data breach, and they just decided not to tell anyone, because if we don't tell you, it didn't happen. You know,
roll safe.
So
roll safe.
That was just like, there's a reason that I don't use Uber on my daily drive and I only use it when I travel internationally. Is because I just don't trust that company anymore. I don't trust that they know how to conduct themselves like grown-ups. I don't trust that they know how to secure my data. I don't trust that they know how to take care of their drivers. I just don't trust them. And last but not least, the biggest one of the year, the most disappointing, is net neutrality, man. And it's not just the fact that net neutrality was repealed, it's the fact that Ajit Pai has not sat in front of Congress to explain exactly why, with all the consumer outrage, with all the senators telling him to hold off on it, why he still repealed the net neutrality.
He's got.
I think that is something he has to face Congress for this one. So
hopefully somebody will slap him. I'd pay money to see somebody slap his face. I just really would. He just has a face that needs to be smacked.
Oh, come on. No violence. We don't preach violence here. We don't preach violence.
Smack isn't violent.
That's violence.
It's not violence.
No, the way you said that, smack. I think of like Smack, the drug in the 80s. It's like smack isn't violent.
Like I don't know, but net neutrality just had to go.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sorry, that was my 5. I thought we needed 5. But yeah, I kind of mixed it up. It was supposed to be 5 news stories.
I thought I was gonna rant.
5 news stories.
Right. Words like, I came to calm and collected. I was having a good day. It looks like Sam had a bad week.
Man's like, flips the table.
Okay, Juan, do you have any uselessnesses that you would like to add for your uselessnesses of the year? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I was still muted there. I didn't really do the assignment, but 3 of the ones that I was thinking of, Sam took. So I would be in very much in lockstep with him. The thing I would add is like I said during our sort of Apple segment there, so many companies I feel got burned this year because of things like disclosure. Like, so a little like baby uselessness in addition to Sam's list would be like how OnePlus replied to some of the problems they faced this year, including user data being acquired on people's behavior, how they were using their phones, benchmark rigging, things like that. When they can't get out ahead of those stories or appeal to their fan base, to their community, and explain what it is that these things are doing, then again, it makes your company look like they're doing something shady. And we saw this problem in very localized ways address a number of manufacturers this year.
Cool. Warren, anything else you want to add?
Let's see.
I mean, I know Sam covered the whole gambit. Thank you very much for laying out a lot for us.
Sam covered a large gambit of uselessness that's been going on. Oh man, there's not much else to cover. I think I'm trying to think here. The neutrality has been kind of beaten to death. I think in terms of like how useless that's been. I think we've kind of run into Uber and ride-sharing services being useless. and pounding them into the ground as much as we possibly can with them as well too. YouTube in general has been pounded into the ground too, and YouTube deservingly, considering how poor they've been managing the platform recently, and specifically with such great and high popular creators and not really knowing how to manage it properly. Hopefully, maybe they'll learn their lessons from. I'm trying to think of who else. There's so many. There's a lot of uselessness that goes on throughout the year, but man, those are the kind of the big ones out there. I think YouTube tops the cake. And besides that, well, I don't. I don't want to say just Facebook, but I want to say the general media and how it handles fake news is probably one of the biggest uselessness that's been going around. And basically saying, we don't know how this fake news got out here. We don't know how things get tracked. You have algorithms and being able to analytically use data points, like Sam said, to figure out where things are coming from. Stop hiring the intern and look at the analytics. Stop hiring the person that majored in, like, I don't know, geez, like basket weaving or something, and say, well, you have a degree, you can go here and do data analytics and figure this out. No, get people that know what they're doing in terms of analytical data, reading what those things are, understanding what those things are, and reporting back to you when you have problems. Because with all these algorithms that collect all this analytical data, the amount of uselessness that we see from a lot of these companies does not make a lot of sense. They tout so much about this stuff being so great, and automation and algorithms and bringing in the data and data-driven metrics and all those other stupid ass buzzwords that they love to come out with. But yet we still have uselessness, like you said, with how many Uber fails were there this year? I don't know. Sam's been keeping count. I think he's got a little X on the board.
I think 3 or 4.
Three or four useless. Although I won't. Although I'll full disclosure, I use Uber and Lyft both at the same time because I don't give a damn. I want the two to compete against each other until the end of time, because I'm not going to allow one of them to dominate over the other. Just because we need to make sure that that doesn't turn into a monopoly from one side at all whatsoever. The YouTube, how many L's did YouTube take this year? Did he take more than Microsoft?
Yeah,
that's quite an accomplishment. Like, you actually have
Microsoft's
to work.
Big L was just they didn't release any compelling products, but as
well, no, they got some big L's. So okay, let's go into Microsoft. We haven't talked about them and their L's. Killing Windows Phone and pretending that they didn't exist. Windows 10s and its existence. Period. Making a Surface laptop an actual laptop. I don't know how the hell that works with the Surface line. The whole point of that whole thing was it's supposed to be the tablet conversion.
I don't consider it an L because that thing is damn good though.
It's a laptop. It's not a Surface. Go make something else. Call it something else. It's not. Microsoft laptop would have been fine, but the throw it into the Surface
you gotta
line,
sell it. You gotta put it in the Surface line.
Yeah, and it spits all the rest of the tablets and the functionality that they were trying to create with those.
Hey, you think we're gonna get a Surface phone? I heard rumors that there's gonna be a Surface phone.
Who cares?
Surface phone.
Who cares? Nobody cares about anything Microsoft mobile related at all whatsoever. Another uselessness that Microsoft loves to do is popping up any other time. Let's start this off. Fuck you, Microsoft. Every time you try to pop up when I open up Chrome or any other browser, why don't you use Microsoft Edge? No, I don't want to use Microsoft Edge. And every time you make an update, stop trying to change the default to Edge, because you do that, and then make it more difficult for everyone to try and make it by default. Stop that one.
Oh, I think you were done there. You paused for a second.
No. I'm done with that one yet. That one. Secondly, don't pop up to me and tell me, hey, connect your phone to, your Windows 10. You ain't got no damn phone. How are you going to be able to do that?
You want connect your Android phone. You just have to
with what? Using their apps, their services, and using their stupid start skin on it. You want so how is that technically? That's not using your phone with Windows. That's using their software that somewhat syncs with their software to create the happen when there's a whole bunch of other apps that are free that do better than whatever they want to do. Popping up a text message onto a Windows PC is not hard. And it's plenty of free and paid and very cheaply paid services that will do that for you.
But it's also free, and it's a free app. So
and there's plenty of free apps that do it.
That was just a gripe, man. You don't want You suffer.
But the thing is, it's not just a gripe. It's like, why would you advertise that when you don't have your own phone and your own ecosystem that would entice me to actually want to use that type of synergy? That's why that's a fail. Don't pop it up at me and then pretend you didn't kill Windows Phone. I mean, it's just putting that out there. But Microsoft's had so many other fails beyond what that has been, but their stock keeps going up because they're pushing cloud shit, and that's mostly because of Azure. It isn't anything else that they're doing. Azure's doing well, and they somewhat saved Xbox from utter doom with the Xbox One X selling probably far better than I think anyone anticipated to actually do.
Well, I mean, it's going to do much better now that you can get Kodi on it. Woo!
For all of the 2 weeks anyone will care about that, and all the streams are going to cut out after it. Every stream is dying on that thing, though, like quickly and rapidly dying.
I don't know because I don't use Kodi, so I have no.
I haven't touched Kodi in years, and
but I stuck to Plex, man.
Just Plex and.
But I do know people who use Kodi and says it still works perfectly for them. So I'm just passing on the message.
Kodi has been getting updated, and
I mean that's not
should be workable with people.
Yeah, use the Kodi and all that stuff, and look at your shit HD, or if anything is actually in HD on that thing whatsoever. I've seen it recently, and some of the content that comes through, it's crappy.
I am just.
It is very crappy looking. Let me tell you something. Bootleg better, okay? Bootleg better.
Whoa. This show is not about illegalities.
We're talking about Kodi and you're saying the show got You might as well be real about it. It's you're going to bootleg.
I was talking about, it's an app that's available on the Xbox, basically allowed by Microsoft. That was it.
I only share my home video.
Which doesn't make sense. Which even makes less sense. Because isn't that what the Xbox is? Isn't that what the software is? You're better off just using the Plex plugin. Literally, use the Plex app, get yourself a Plex server, and you're set. You're really set.
That costs you more money. This is
not realistically, because you can run Plex off your PC and it can just connect through.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Hey, I'm just putting it out there. I was just sharing information. That's all. Microsoft put it out.
You said the word Kodi. That's already. And I already don't like it. When my mother is asking, "Hey, this Kodi thing that you can set up on fire," I said, "Yeah, we're not doing that." I was like, "We're not doing that."
That's amazing, right? But that's so that's the, like I was putting together my list of what's it called? Top stories, and I think wire cutting technologies. Definitely a big thing this year.
Yeah.
Like 2017 has taken the move that we've had between like 2012 and 2015, and all of a sudden just exploded in 2017. It's
the services
really
are finally there. Like I think a big thing was Direct Now showing up.
Direct Now, right.
But I don't even think it's the fact.
That was a big push.
I don't even think that it's the fact that we had any technological shift. I think it's the fact that regular users are now aware. They're now aware that they don't have to pay for a huge cable bill.
I think but that's because if you go back to Amazon and the Fire Stick.
Yeah, but if you go back to what Warren said is, as much as DirecTV now only has, I mean, they have 1 million subscribers, but the fact that AT&T literally said, we're changing DirecTV, which we bought, which is a satellite dish, and we are making it this.
And it's not even. I don't even think it's come out of a satellite anymore. I think it's.
It's not. It's just.
I think they're just branding Uverse.
Yeah, no, it is. But I know. But that's the thing. It's like, but that's the mindset that they change, and people are like, and you're like, you can have your TV anywhere. When a big company, remember, Comcast was supposed to do this, and technically, Comcast, a long time ago, we all know that. But I'm just saying
that's a whole long discussion that will take forever.
The fact that AT&T did that forced everybody immediately. YouTube. Hulu changed their own. Like everybody was like, "Oh shit, we need to now drop our services, or else we will be out there." But
DirecTV did it very well. They advertised it well. They pushed it well. They bundled a stick with it. They made it so that when you bought from them that service, you had everything you needed to get the service set up. Unlike Sling TV, which should have did this earlier and should have been the ones to push it, but I think not really pushing on any hardware with it, and having a very terrible interface in my opinion didn't really help, and having a extremely limited number of channels launch compared to what AT&T pushed out.
Oh yeah, but also AT&T. I mean, AT&T did the best thing possible, even though they don't own Warner Brothers yet, right?
Yeah.
As soon as they started merger talks, they said we were throwing HBO in there. Now it's HBO for lifetime if you actually sign up. I mean, think about that. They were like, we will just give you the best streaming channel content for you for the rest of your life.
I had my mother set up this year with 2 Fire Sticks and the Direct Now account that I don't currently use because I have Comcast while I'm here in Boston, and I set her up with that, and she loves it. She sees no difference between that and regular TV, and just uses it, and then she switches between that, the Netflix, and whatever's on Amazon Prime, and works perfectly well.
Oh. I will say though, I wanted to put this in before we go into text we like and stuff like that. My biggest disappointment this year is it's not one thing. I felt like there was a lack of true innovation across the board from every company in any things that would wow me. There was a lot of refinements, there were a lot of cool stuff, but I didn't feel like I got any piece of tech this year that I went, hot damn.
Yeah, like, and I agree with that because I kind of
wanted to get. I felt like yeah, there was some nice refinements here and there, but
don't you think?
Yeah, well, no. Well, there's.
I'm just saying me. I mean,
I would say, well, this is tough to say, but I would say, what about Threadripper and Ryzen? I know it's just a processor, but
okay.
That was absolutely going to be my one plug for a company this year. Was
I mean,
I'm so happy to have a competitive AMD again.
Yeah, I was going to put them there, but my problem with that was
thanks to E starting it off.
What?
It's all your fault that I had to build this machine.
Dude, I told Luke.
Let's talk about how this started. Let's talk about the story of this started.
Rising PCs.
No. Let's start off how this started.
How's he arguing when he has that powerful machine? Because you should be thanking me.
I already had a good machine. I had an awesome, my machine. It was a good machine. It's old, but it's still rocking. The next thing you know, I get a text from this fool, and he's like, "Hey man, Threadripper's on sale. Top of line, it's like $100." And I was like, damn it, do you know what you just started by doing this? Go buy. I was like, yeah, here we go. I'm not going to just sit on this thing. And he knew it too.
I was trying to help a brother out, man. I mean, he said he was going to build next year. I figured he might as well just bump the schedule up a little faster.
Yeah, a lot faster than I wanted to go.
No, but he moved faster than I did because I really thought he was going to buy the processor, wait a little bit. Before I knew, Warren's like, yeah, what case should I get? And I'm getting this processor. And man, check out this motherboard. Then he's like, I want to get RAM. Now I was like, with lights, he's like, God damn it, gotta get lights for my RAM. I can't have a build without lights.
RGB. The one thing I hate about this X399 system, it pisses me off, is all of them are all RGB, and you just cannot have a system that you spend that money on and not pay for the RGB RAM for it.
Because there will be a dark spot on your motherboard there with no lights, and it's not cool.
I mean, it's cool. Asus software sucks for controlling because it basically doesn't control it. I'm just gonna put that out there. It basically doesn't. But it's like my whole case is RGB. Jeff, there's gonna be a video coming up on all of it, my Threadripper experiences.
Okay, so I guess we can all say that AMD fits that company that gets a top tech bump for this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you looked at what they've done, they've allowed higher end systems, and they've allowed higher end processors to be one more reachable than what Intel was doing back then, and they've also sort of segmented processors a bit in the way that they've said that if you want gaming and static computing, you want to go with our Ryzen 3, 5, or 7 systems, versus you can come to Threadripper. It does. Gaming is there, but they're like, this is our content creation platform, and this is what when you buy this we're talking to the YouTubers and the music makers and VR graphics center stuff like that. We have a way for you to build a machine powerful enough to do that, because usually you have to buy those machines typically, or because it would be cheaper to buy than you to try to build that type of powerful machine for yourself. But now you can actually get that with AMD Ryzen, and I think that's a real good thing that they've put out that I think they're going to changed the market quite a bit in that space. I would like to see them step up in the graphics cards a little bit, although I honestly think we have plateaued to the point of graphics cards, so it's like nothing's going to matter until they all do some type of AI that's going to be needed for some type of game in the graphics cards before we see another probably huge jump in graphics technology, which probably won't be for another 2 or 3 years in that case. So
I would say probably too. I think this year at CES we'll be seeing companies trying to push like super fast refresh rate 4K displays, and
yeah,
then we'll see a need for stepping up in terms of graphics, and so that TikTok will probably start executing by the end of 2018, beginning of 2019.
Yeah, that's hopefully something we'll see with the improvements of 4K. 'Cause I had to give up on 4K monitors for a while because I wanted something newer, but you can't get anything decently priced at a high refresh rate, and it just does not scale very well. It was getting to the point my eyes are bothering me looking at 4K monitors. I was like, you know what? I give up the ghost on this, and because of I bought another damn monitor to go along with this whole build.
What the hell is wrong with this dude? Blaming me for
You're spending money. I almost got RGB monitor too. I almost got an RGB monitor too. Luckily, the RGB version of the monitor I got was a lower resolution, and I wanted at least 3440. That was like 2560. But the one I do have, it does have a light at the bottom of the damn thing though that glows Asus logo. I can't change color on it, so I'm kind of pissed. But
you can just add like a Philips Hue strip, man.
I already have on the back of my desk. You've seen my videos recently.
There you go, man. You're done. You're done completely. I will say this with AMD's CPU offering. One of the best benefits I got from it, I have the 49-inch monitor here, and the system I was running before, and basically these are identical systems, except the one change is the processor. My initial system was an Intel 7700K with a Maxwell Titan X, 32 gigs of RAM, just same layout. And it, this monitor will run with any graphics card that can do a what do you call it again? Three monitor output.
Oh, 3 monitor output. Okay.
So I plugged it in. Everything looked great until I tried to render a video. Now, normally on my system, on a regular monitor, a 6-minute video will render in about 7.5, 8 minutes. With the Intel system, a 6-minute video took 45 minutes. So I was like,
what did you code? What the hell happened?
Initially, I was like, wait. I mean, it's the GPU. I mean, I'm wondering. So I go, you know what? I tried everything. I did updates. I said, let me switch to my Ryzen 7 1700, 1700X.
That's what, quad or hexacore?
No, it's octa-core, I think. I can't remember, but it's similar to the 7777.
Yeah, it's octa-core, 8-core, 16 threads.
I plugged it in. I connected it again, same monitor. Again, the change was just the processor. I put the same 6-minute video, and it took 9 minutes to render. And I said, Intel, this is the last time I'm using you, because that's the only thing that I changed with. Yeah. I mean, granted, they had different boards, but it's still the same setup structure and price range, if you will.
For the fact that, because most of us in here use, for editing, we use Adobe Premiere Pro. That's usually kind of de facto everyone uses when you're doing high-end, like intermediate level or high level video editing. Some people still use Sony Vegas, but
and thank you, they got bought out by Magix, so you don't even have the fun Sony name anymore.
Magix of all what?
I gotta say, you're working at ATVC now that they finally improved the compatibility with NVIDIA GPUs. Vegas Pro 15 is still the most stable platform I've had for not having to transcode HEVC. It renders natively in the timeline, and
that's one of the things I was just about to bring up. Also, I'll bring that up probably in my kind of sort of review of this new PC I've built. For Ryzen to probably not be optimized for Doby by Adobe, it's worked far better for me from a performance perspective than it has on the Intel platforms, from what I've noticed. Specifically rendering out, like I did a 5-minute video test. I was talking at the end. I did a 5-minute video test on exporting out in H.264, 4K, whatever, export out with all the coloring and all that stuff done with it. It was a 5-minute video, and it exported out 1-to-1 in 5 minutes. That I have not seen that happen since 1080p, and that's amazing that it can pull that off, because that's a huge upside to have, especially if you're editing 4K video. Now, the disappointing thing is that, and I blame this on Adobe, it still doesn't improve the way H.264 works inside of it. It's still, it's herky jerky, but it's just not smooth when you scroll across the timeline. So for those that don't do video editing, the reason you would want that, like, it's edible if you don't want to convert the file. You can still edit with it, but the problem kind of becomes is when you want to get a specific point on a video, it becomes a lot harder because the thing just kind of skips and jump cuts quite heavy, kind of all cross around. Sort of like, I don't know what he's doing right now, and it's just weird.
That's a sign to say, let's not get into details and let's jump to the next tech topic that we like for 2017. Thank you very much, Warren. We will continue that explanation later.
Just been interrupting me the entire damn time.
So Sam,
Warren is bringing up some excellent points, and
Exactly.
I'm glad he's contributing to the conversation.
No, he is. It is. We just need to kind of move forward. That's what I'm just saying. I apologize. We'll create a separate show at night, and we can talk about, Adobe Premiere and processes and stuff like that. No, I'm just lying. Juan, do you have any? So, what would you like to throw in as your tech success, or things you like this year?
Yeah, AMD was my number one, but this was also, I think, a good year. If we're getting back to mobile too, AMD, I think part of their success, and this is kind of tracking back to a point Warren made, this was a good year for specialist gear. Threadripper is not a great gaming CPU. That price performance ratio just doesn't pan out if you wanted to build a killer rig for gaming. But for what we just went through in the conversation was talking about video editing and rendering. I think we saw some really great pocket successes for specialist gear in a number of other communities too. BlackBerry had the best year they've had in probably a decade on the back of their TCL partnership releasing the Key 1. We found the resurgence of Samsung's Note, weathering a battery explosion problem last year to being one of their top sellers this year. LG continuing to focus on a specific demographic with the V30, even though their marketing and software sucks. This was a good year for focusing, for paying attention to a specific demographic, a specific market, and executing a product for them, as opposed to years past where I feel everyone sort of pretended that they could be all-rounders for everybody. All-rounders are boring. All-rounders don't really get the job done. Jack of all trades doesn't impress me. What impresses me is a company actually trying to satisfy the needs of a particular community.
Okay. Sam, would you like to throw in something else other than AMD and specified phones?
I would say smart speakers / assistants. It's amazing how that market has matured over the last few months, and that is something we can point to actual products and say, because of smart speakers, this person released this, or this other company. Even Microsoft decided to pair with Harman Kardon to do the Invoke. So even they realize you need hardware with your own smart assistants on. It's out there for people to use because everyone's talking about it. Even my little nephew spent part of his allowance to get a Google Home Mini. Like, wow, everyone knows about these things. So it's I think that's probably one of the biggest technology stories of the year, or technology moves of the year, that this particular market is maturing very fast. And also the fact that Google now has 2 requests at once. You can make 2 requests at the same time. That's pretty cool. That's actually pretty nice.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm surprised you didn't mention any of their specific names like Alexa, because how like they were all just. There's a reason I said that quietly, because they are listening in the background. But I think you're definitely right on that too. you know, it's helped spearhead. I think the AI talk for me is one of the things that I love and hate it, because I personally don't call it or consider it AI, but I like where it's going in the fact that, yes, you know, now that a lot of that processing is happening, and, you know, you're trying to get your algorithms to be smarter, you know, and we saw at least clearly for me with the Pixel camera, the fact that I consider the best smartphone camera this year, that you were able to churn out pictures where Google showed us that software can triumph in the year where everybody said it's 2 lenses, baby. You know, I mean, it was, you know, from your budget manufacturers to your, you know, big smartphone manufacturers, you know, that leap where they announced the Pixel. And I remember myself at the press conference, I was like, what is wrong with you people? One camera, please, rubbish. And then I took a picture. I was like, never mind. I just didn't believe you guys. And, you know, and that's because, you know, of course, their AI algorithm they've been using. So I want to see what happens with that 2018 and as we move forward. What other things can you apply? How does that work with different processor types and, you know, vector units, especially when it's on the mobile platform, when it's even on, because, you know, to me is I want to see, and, you know, this is going back to Microsoft, and, you know, to me is, you know, how can they use AI to make Windows better? Like, how can you do that? Where
Cortana asks you a question every 5 seconds.
No, well, we're not talking about, but like, for instance, you know, we talked about, you know, you mentioned AI graphics cards, right? Windows has a lot of specified functions, and Microsoft knows how they collect data from this. Like, I want to see how they can say, okay, can we make things a little bit more specialized in the PC so that we can have better graphics performance, we can have better video, we can have just better things all around. And we can use the algorithm from that to make it a better process, and with other you know, pieces of technology out there. So for me, that's one thing that I think this year, the emergence of AI was a big benefit. All right, so that's like 4 things. Anybody have like one more, you know, want to add?
If you guys don't mind me jumping in again, I would say
Sam has his list, man. Sounds like I did my homework.
No. It's just I think this year, I think you were right. This year we didn't see any major hardware innovation, but we did see a lot of markets maturing. Like Tesla, to me, is just it's like, this is the future, right? Because they have pushed this whole self-driving cars, and now they're pushing self-driving trucks. Now we have Uber, we have VW, we have a bunch of other companies that are looking to do something that, if you told me 5 years ago that within 10 years, we might see actual self-driving cars on the road that people own, I would have said you were like smoking something. But this is actually going to happen probably before 2020. And this is really amazing. I think that market is a very mature and a very, and it's being led by a very innovative company, Tesla. So it's, I'm actually very impressed at it. I actually saw an ad for a Ford F-150 with assisted parking. I'm like, whoa, okay. I guess we're all there now. It's impressive. It's impressive how well self-driving cars and trucks, how far they've come this year.
Cool.
So, I mean, on all these things tying together, I think what we're looking at, because, you know, we've been saying we're rapidly approaching that post-smartphone world. It seems like the next phase of consumer electronics is really going to come down to watching companies try and figure out more organic interactions for data services and things like, you know, lifestyle conveniences. I don't think that the future is having a smart fridge with a camera inside so you can see inside your fridge when you're at work. But that kind of technology and that kind of consumer experience is going to keep feeding into the overall blueprint of the human condition. It's both a positive and a negative, because, you know, we need to track all of that information, assign it to you and your account, and then they can come up with better algorithms to actually fulfill what it is, that you're trying to do. But that also means that companies like, you know, Google, Amazon, Samsung, all have this humongous bucket of data on you and your behavior. But the next phase of this has a ton of potential. And that's what's kind of exciting, is it giving us a little hope for the future of consumer electronics, the future of tech and humanity. I look at moves like augmented reality. That could be a really positive step towards improving our interactions with technology. I'm not impressed in 2017, closing this year out, that so many people still think that this is sort of the right way to consume data and interact with the world around them. And I really feel we could have done better by now, but no one wants to take risks. Well, now we're finally starting to see some of this investment in data acquisition and in new technology starting to pay off. The little hints: the Pixel's computational camera processing, self-driving features on cars, cameras and smart speakers everywhere, smarter voice interaction so you don't have to type out everything. These things are going to be a huge benefit, not just for those of us who are already tech fans, but also for people who don't get to participate in the same way because of other issues. So once we sort of elevate the experience for everybody, minus the fact that net neutrality is going to screw us, once we elevate that experience for everybody, I think we'll have better participation on all fronts.
Okay. Warren, do you have anything, or can we move to 2018, what we want to see, in tech? Move on? Okay. I mean, for me, I guess I'll start. I want to see AI improve. I think also I've been spoiled because I've been reading too many sci-fi novels, but I have AI in it, and I just don't consider this. It's very hard for my brain to reconcile. So I really want a lot of that vector processing, a lot of that computational analysis to apply to other things and not be limited as we move forward. And yes, it's going to start with a smartphone, and it would extend with smart speakers and things like that. But I really want to see companies find innovative ways of applying that AI computation into everyday products. So even talking about that smart fridge, right? And having the camera inside and things like that, where if, my fridge is now actively looking at what I have inside, and then actively, I don't have to input and say, okay, I put eggs and then I put a week. My fridge is already doing that for me and telling me like, oh, hey, look, dude, your eggs are like a month old, so you got to throw them away and buy new eggs. That I would like to see, even though, some people might say it's trivial, but it helps, it works for different types of people, and also just shows you how far it's moving forward. So I personally would like to see it move into more regular products, and seeing how that actually helps in day-to-day activities, away from these sexy devices like smartphones or self-driving cars or even AR. I wanted to see it in vacuums, the robo vacuums. Why shouldn't they have AR computational analysis there, so that it's not bumping into stuff like half the time, because those things just use infrared and infrared cameras to basically map out. So those are the things I would like to see.
Pretty cool.
I agree.
Yeah. I like those ideas.
Well, but I mean, isn't one of the reasons why we continue to do these weekly broadcasts, the reason why we continue to review products, even though YouTube is screwing with us on a daily basis. I mean, at our core, I think we're all tech optimists. I think the human condition is improved through the use of these products more than it's degraded. But that still means that we're always going to be on the conversation as to how these things can get better, and where we want to see these improvements so that this condition gets better. That to me sort of plays in hand. What I want to see is improvement in the social interactions and data and services that really take advantage of this stuff. I'm kind of tired of everyone trying to impress consumers through novelty. It's shinier, it's prettier, it's got a glass back, it's got a slightly better camera, it's got a slightly faster processor. We're in an era of really iterative hardware. And so now it's time to start really taking advantage, really taxing that hardware to see what the next generation of services are going to provide. The novelty of VR wears off really quickly if you don't have new content to really encourage people to get on board the VR train. AR is super nifty for about a minute, and then you exhaust the creative possibilities of the IKEA app on your phone. And so it's time for this next year. And what I really hope to see is that this stuff really take off, because once it does, then I think we'll be able to affect actual change in the market and really make these things better. The notion of a self-driving car with an AR overlay on your windshield and a smart heads-up display that interacts with content in a meaningful fashion, keeping it up at eye level. You don't have this weird evolutionary thing of people walking around choking themselves off with their fat necks because they have to look down at their phone. Like, we could do better.
That's because of In-N-Out Burger, man.
We could do so much better. I don't know. I think Five Guys is contributing to that problem. I think The Habit is contributing to that problem.
Wait,
but ultimately, like, as you walk around and you see, like, I've got this like weak wrist because I can barely hold my phone up and I have to look down at my screen. Like, this is a terrible place to take humanity, and we can do better. And I think 2018 will hopefully be a year we take another step in doing better.
Okay. Warren, anything? Sam?
2018. What to look forward to? I mean, I'm thinking in next year. I don't see a lot of big things changing next year. I see more refinement, more development, more markets maturing. I don't see one big new thing coming out there. The things I would like to see in terms of technology, from a technology, but not from technology, from space of things that happened last year. I'd love to see things like YouTube and other social services that we're using sort of improve the way it works. Stop, boning us around and really try to make the platform work in its proper way. I think realistically that where the technology change is going to be mostly in how cryptocurrency and that technology is going to be what's going to be probably the big talk next year over some of the stuff we're seeing in the consumer electronics space. I think consumer electronics space right now, I don't want to say it's plateaued. It's just in its period of refinement. So it needs to develop, mature, refine. Then we'll see maybe a big change or a big leap or a big jump at some point when it's the right time. But I think we're a couple of years of 1 or 2 years, maybe a maximum 3 years of refinement before we get to the next sort of big jump and leap in technology. But I think the big thing next year to be excited about will be how cryptocurrency and blockchain will affect us in the way we do things next year. And that's going to have effects on all aspects of services, from online to even things that are, physical services to everything. Pretty much everything that we do is going to be kind of affected by that. I'm really interested to see where that goes. And I think that's the exciting. I think that's the point, that a lot of the stuff's going to be exciting in terms of technology next year that I'm looking the most forward to. I'm sort of on the tip of one as like, there's only so many ways you can refine a glowing rectangle before it's kind of like, yep, it's the same glowing rectangle.
This year, the rectangle's a little skinnier and a little more glowy.
I mean, the things that I can think of that they could do big. I mean, I think cameras will be the big feature that everyone focuses on next year again, and really refining and pushing that technology and trying to catch up with Google with a lot of this AI and machine learning stuff like that, to create better product, to create better photos. But beyond that, it's really just battery improvements, software improvements, little sleeker designed hardware, making things look a little sexier and a little nicer than the previous year. TVs are, I think, well, we'll see with TVs. TVs are always like 5 years ahead of what anybody ever held is gonna buy. That's just kind of how it is. They come up with some cool new tech, and it's like, when it's not $5,000 anymore, then everybody else, then you'll start to see it, on more of a regular basis, and that's kind of how TVs sort of work. I'm really thinking of maybe we'll see some more stuff in the wireless space with AD wireless becoming a thing, and seeing more routers sort of support that. But just kind of rambling on here. I don't know if you guys, Sam, Randy, has anything else going on. I think it's really the cryptocurrency thing is really, to me, where in blockchain is where I think the exciting tech stuff is happening.
I mean, I agree with you on blockchain itself. I think cryptocurrency, the cryptocurrencies themselves. I mean, it reminded me of something I heard from I can't remember CEO of what bank, and he said he put it out himself and said that, yeah, blockchain definitely is like cryptocurrencies. Will always face the problems of central banks, and he considers blockchain changing the way he liked to call it. He called it. He's like, every currency has a cryptocurrency. No, a virtual currency. Sorry, there's a virtual dollar because we move money left and right from banks, all that kind of stuff. So his own thing was, and I agree to a large degree that I think blockchain and how that tech moves to other facets. Whether it's insurance, it's basically bookkeeping at its best level, right? And how that
basically so the whole idea with the blockchain.
The coins. Oh, sorry, you're probably going to say the coins are what runs the block.
No, the coins don't run the blockchain. Basically, what it is the for a Bitcoin, you're mining. Now, this is very high level. Sorry if I mess this up. It's very high level. Right? You're mining, or you're basically mining data. You're crunching data, and the result of this crunching data is what we're placing the value on. When the real value is really for the distributed ledger, right? So basically, what the whole idea of the blockchain is that if I have a transaction, if I buy a stock, or let's say I buy a product from UE, what happens is if that product changes hand, right? If I then give that product to Warren, right? It's not only we just don't recognize a transaction between myself and Warren. The transaction is, transaction 123 between Sam and Warren. Transaction AB123 between Sam and E. It recognizes and it follows that transaction through the whole process. So anytime that transaction is modified, it doesn't negate everything that comes before, which is a problem that a lot of ledgers have right now.
It's not even technically modified. It's not technically modified. A new transaction is written when you change, it's written every single time.
It doesn't overwrite. Yeah, it doesn't overwrite the prior the prior transaction. So it's a very good way. If you think about it in a whole industry where you have multiple banks with multiple different ledgers, all of a sudden everyone is on the same distributed ledger. The transaction done by a Citibank is the same transaction that can be recognized by a Barclays, can be recognized by some podunk bank somewhere in the middle of nowhere. It makes everything easier. It makes tracking these transactions a lot easier. So yeah, the distributed ledger, I think, is the real thing that's going to come out of this whole cryptocurrency explosion.
The thing that's key is that you can do this at such a cheaper and faster rate than they could beforehand, and that's where things like this is why something like you're hearing a lot about Ripple and the way that's exploded so much in recent. I think it's second in market cap now, just under Bitcoin, and you're hearing about that because that's what its focus is on, is doing these type of secure business transactions and financial transactions at a very fast rate across multiple banks. So that's where the coin can come in, because that means that type of currency on the ledger is accepted not only by that bank but then this other bank here. You don't have to worry about what am I thinking of, currency exchanging, currency conversions and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. That you don't have to worry about, because they're both using the same coin value to each other to communicate that transaction. So it's so hard to explain.
Jason Gill put it very you did a great job, Jason. What you've done here said, in order for you to settle a transaction, right? Normally you book a trade. On a T+1 basis, you verify that trade just in case anything changes. And then the trade would normally settle on T2 or T+1 or T2, right? Yeah. Now, with something like Ripple, 4 seconds.
Yeah. Instant. It's
like 4 seconds.
And this isn't the only ones doing that. There's another one that I've looked at called Zen Protocol that essentially is trying to do the same sort of thing for financial services. So imagine if a lot of the way trading works, which I think the middleman within trading between funds and the brokers is like the biggest scam I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how they're allowed to make money. It's just it's mostly a big ripoff. But for example, like typically a hedge fund, they make trades throughout the day, but they have to have those trades verified. So they go through the order management system. They say, we want to trade Apple, whatever stock they want to trade. Then at the end of the day, it connects over to the broker, but there's a certain middleman that's in the middle that guarantees that trade connection between the hedge fund and the broker to make sure that that trade does go through and they accept the trade. The funny thing is that middle person, every time that fires up, they get paid by the hedge fund to fire up and ensure that transaction. Then on the other end, the brokers have to buy in to specific specific sort of connector. I'll just call them connectors, not their name, but they have to buy into a specific one so that they're able to get these trades because they want the trade because they want to get the fee for the trades, obviously, when trading it around. So it turns into this thing where there's one company that has a monopoly over this whole thing of guaranteeing trades between funds and brokers. I'm generalizing this here, that they're making millions of dollars on and ripping basically both sides off, essentially for something that they shouldn't really have to be in the middle of that.
Centralized clearing.
Something like, basically centralized
clearinghouses.
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 Now, something like before we get does that in 4 seconds through smart contracts.
Yep.
With no need of that company.
It's definitely going to change the way banks do business. It's definitely already affecting the way even hedge funds do business. No, you're definitely right. The cryptocurrency is going to be a big deal. But for me, I think what I'm looking forward to in 2018 is I remember reading this story, and I found it finally here. I remember reading this story earlier this month of a macaque monkey that had part of its spine severed. And, so its right leg was no longer working. And scientists installed a device at the base of its brain to stimulate the nerves so that now it can basically think again and have its right leg moving, right? And then you think about that, and then you think about what DARPA has been doing with prosthetics. I think we're at a point right now where people who have been paralyzed, people who have lost limbs, they can start hoping that something maybe within the next decade or two, they might be able to walk again. They might be able to like hug people again. They might be able to pick up that sandwich again. They might be able to do something that restores at least some aspect of their normal lives back to them. That's freaking amazing, man. Just imagine walking outside and, you someone who was confined to a wheelchair for the past few years, all of a sudden, you're out there running, like jogging in the morning with your best friend who came back from war and you couldn't enjoy that run with him anymore, or someone who hasn't seen for a long time is now being able to see. It's mind-blowing. The fact that we're finally tapping into the brain in a way that we haven't tapped into it in so many years. I hope 2018 actually builds more on that. And, we get to start seeing actual products, actual prosthetics come out of this scientific discoveries.
Bionautics.
Oh, bionautics. Exactly. Bionautics.
I really would like to see next year an expansion. I was just thinking about a real push for more of those headphones that can live translate languages.
Hey, Ronald Collins, I was letting Warren explain it, okay? Yeah. He's like, you guys just described the clearinghouse. I'm like, yes, that's what I said.
That's what he said, but that's not exactly what it is, but that's probably the easiest layman terms way of saying what it is. Not exactly that, though.
You're definitely right on the translate headsets. I mean, that would be very cool to have. I think one of the things, just because I've been reading too much sci-fi and watching much sci-fi shows, the fact that language is still a huge barrier in this day and age. Not even just from the basis of moving from one country to another. Like when you travel for all these conventions, you go to Barcelona, you go to China. And you want to you get there, you do your stuff in the show, but you want to experience the country, and you're like, I want to ask a question, if you have Google Translate, that helps a lot. You can do that, but it would be great where we could move to, because we are at that stage where we can almost have that No, I'm gonna say similar to Star Trek, but I'm saying when you have a device where immediately once you say English or you mention a language, their person is okay, and then they can tap on their phone or whatever, and then it becomes that.
No, dude, we're at the stage where it can recognize the language.
Yeah, exactly.
It should be able to
recognize it for you, but it's that kind of thing. I think one way that could change is you could create a system maybe for businesses, especially in countries or areas where there's a lot of tourists coming through, right? Where a tourist comes to the counter and he speaks, there's a microphone that picks it up, and he just starts speaking out in the local language to whoever it is, or maybe an earpiece or something like that, so that it gives some of that, connectivity of saying that I can communicate. Granted, what's going to cause is that eventually we'll never learn any language. We will just speak our own language as is, because we're like, yeah, there's a universal translator. We can go anywhere on the planet. But it still does help, the fact that you can, you should be able to communicate with somebody else and not feel like you're stuck, because we have the tools now to basically, speak to somebody else in a different language.
We just want to go to the. We just want to be able to go to the bar and understand a cute French girl. That's all.
I mean, I didn't see that wasn't a part of the list. I was just seeing on an expanded profile. Yes. Yeah. Anything else you would like to add,
At the same time, when we have things like better translation tools, I think a really beautiful idea of the future of the net could be something like digital empathy. Like you get into a Twitter fight with someone and you can see that information from their smartwatch was that they were at an extremely elevated heart rate and that they've got, some other problems going on. You're like, okay, well, I can see where this person's coming from. Like they're obviously upset. And I think we could be, sort of fingerprinting our information, our content in ways that improve that experience too. Better language translation helps us actually break down barriers, break down borders. And that could be another step towards, sort of a digital empathy or digital telepathy where we can communicate more readily and more immediately with other people. Obviously not for next year.
You know what can happen next year? You know what can happen next year? Speaking of language translation, and I'm calling you out, YouTube. Please, even if I have to pay $10 a month, if you can give me a transcription to different languages, and I can share that with whether people who speak Spanish, German, or Chinese on my channel, that would be fantastic, because you can do that.
Sam, what are you doing?
Excuse me, I thought I might be
This is random as hell.
I thought I muted myself, man. Sorry about
that. No, but they can. And I mean, if you offer it as a service, I will pay for it. And
well, no, you can. They do offer it in there. They do offer third-party services in there to do that for you. You can order through YouTube, and what you could also do is there's a community feature that you can use that users from your community can translate it for you.
Yeah. I know what you mean, but I'm just saying that, look, you offer it as a package service, right? Making YouTube better, right? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but they're gonna automate that, and we already see automated captions worked out. So I don't know.
Yeah, the captions are not bad at all.
Yeah, they've actually. I've used the automated.
Yeah, the captions are still kind of.
I mean, yeah, but automated. Look, I get it. Automated will not be perfect, but if you have a service and you automate it, which means you also, since you're paying, somebody will have to cross-check each batch as they move out. Then yeah, I mean, I'm just saying ways to improve YouTube. That's just what it is. That would be a nice way, and that's something that will help a lot of YouTubers expand the audience as well.
And this is something I wanted to ask you guys, because it was just sort of a general news piece, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on it. But what about the potential for competition in 2018 from YouTube? I don't feel Facebook has really risen to the occasion in providing tools and monetization for their creators, but we've been seeing Amazon taking up what do you call it, the trademarking on OpenTube or Amazon Tube, trying.
It's coming.
God,
If they can
anyone.
build
I do
on
not
It's coming.
care if they have money and they're willing to share some with me to shoot videos out. I don't care what the competition is as long as it exists.
No,
They
I
Well,
need
would.
because the fear I
somebody.
have is now it's Google versus Facebook versus Amazon, the three companies, the three biggest companies most responsible
Yeah.
for trafficking
And
and profiting off of user data. But is this an enemy and enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of situation?
It definitely
It
is.
is. But
And
somebody needs to smack YouTube, and it can't be just sponsors. Because remember, they only respond when advertisers pull shit out. Especially with YouTube Kids should tell you that. They don't only respond when on those things. So
yeah.
to see somebody, the best thing for them would be for somebody like an Amazon going and said, "Oh, we're gonna do this too, and we're gonna make this a little bit better, and we're gonna make sure we're gonna make sure we're gonna have some good ways for creators to make money, and we're going to make sure these certain things sort of happen and put that competition against them will be the best for YouTube because that will force them to do things properly and that will force them to innovate a platform well instead of sitting on their laurels and saying, well, we're the number one in town, so we can just experiment and do whatever we want to do. And if something's broken, we'll just ignore. Oh, wait a minute, large sponsors pulling out. Okay, we'll go ahead and attend to this now. And we'll make drastic steps and changes and be able to do those things. So like the thing with YouTube Kids, none of that would have happened in terms of them hiring more people, looking at more articles. None of that would have happened if you did not hear three of the biggest sponsors and advertisers that they have pulling out of not just YouTube, but out of Google, period, until then. So when they put that out there, it was like, nice to hear YouTube, but you did not react because you're a user base. You did not react because you created. You reacted because $1 billion businesses were pulling money out of you.
Yeah, I think with Amazon it's coming. We know it's coming. It's going to be big. But I think what a lot of people forget to look at with the full venture of what Amazon is. Amazon will provides two things. One, it means for any sponsor, even advertiser, it's direct market to sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not just throwing ads. You're throwing ads directly to buy your products. That's the first thing. Also for influencers, it's also quite easy, especially with us in tech. It's much easier to transition in that market. But I think also the other thing I wanted to add is that I think Amazon had the best year ever. We can call it out now that they literally dominated 2017. They bought Whole Foods, and in no short time, they integrated that into Amazon Fresh. What else did they bought something else this year, I believe, right?
I don't remember. They're dominating on the on the streaming service space.
Yeah, streaming services.
Google has no space in that.
Assistant smart speakers that dominated with the Echo Dot,
Alexa, and
also again, I mean, the traditional marketplace, which is a lot of buying and selling. Black Friday was so big that Bezos became the richest man, at least for a day, because of one day in sales in Black Friday. He had $100 billion in worth. That's how much they dominated this year. They literally just said, we are going to take over the world. And I mean, we live in an Amazon world now, pretty much.
The funny thing is this is the first year that I feel like their sales and things on the product side of things are really starting to make that revenue and money for them, because what they were big off of was they were the first to jump into web services with AWS, and that's what really shot their money up and shot their spacing up. And AWS is getting challenged now by Google and Microsoft in some of that space, but AWS is such a dominant platform, and so many people use it. I mean, so many services use that platform. It'll be really interesting to see come next year how all that cloud stuff works out in terms of the competition. Will they be able to catch up and take a little bit of the space out there? It's almost like Windows versus every other operating system out there, where they have such a dominant space that can anyone come in there and chip a little away from them, or chip enough away.
The funny thing about that too is I think next year you are right with AWS, but also if you go back to Amazon Video or whatever their service is going to be called for that competes against YouTube. I mean, that's going to be running on AWS backbone, and that is going to play a big role again in expanding that. Basically saying, look, we are going to adopt everyone on YouTube, and we can do it because we have this backbone that can actually push out. I think it's going to be interesting once they launch that service and how that competes, and then also how Facebook now counter reacts as well, because we know that's what Facebook does a good job in reacting in certain environments, and then we'll see how well YouTube, granddaddy.
I just had a thought. Well, they're already throwing physical product links inside of like videos and stuff below it. I've seen that around, so they're prepared for it. But here's what's really interesting: is when this platform launches, it's the tech folks will already jump over because it's new shiny tech thing. We're going over there. That's just what we'll all just do that just because we know how it works, and we know a lot of the products and stuff that review can be directly sold off of there, and it's a nice mechanism for generating some revenue within there. The beauty bloggers, when they decide to jump,
it's gonna be epic.
They jump into that space where wow. That's where YouTube has to be super concerned, because if they go, we'll just go over to the beauty space here, when we can sell our products directly, and it offers a vertical for them to then sell maybe their own branded products directly through Amazon as well too, because even think about that we all have brands here. And let's say Amazon's good at white labeling things, and they want to, they contact, us, and they want to make, the Hangouts pair of headphones or whatever the case may be. And we could sell that directly while live streaming from whatever, AWS or Amazon Open Video Service that happens at the same time, so people can purchase whatever products and things we pitch and we want to go through there at the same time. It's just, there is a huge wave of competition coming that I think Google's aware of on YouTube, but I do not think they take it as serious as they should. I think they're kind of sitting back. We'll just wait to see how the hit is. I say I'm not one for waiting to get punched. Usually in a fight, especially competition, the idea is to not get hit. Yeah. That's why Floyd Mayweather is 50-0. 51-0. There's a reason he avoids getting hit. It's kind of the idea, and it seems like Google's just like, come at me, bro. And
well, that's just it. Is I don't think Google is come at me. I think Google has their sights set on being another version of cable. They want
really bad idea.
Content. They want sort of vetted content from major studios, stuff that had money poured into it. And that YouTube is really, I think, a loss leader for them in being another arm of search. So again, as you go through and you search their YouTube videos, they collect data on you, and that helps them serve up ads. So they use YouTube as a way to fund other endeavors, fill other endeavors with information. They don't fund anything off of YouTube. So they're not really looking to pour a ton of investment into improving YouTube, but who can also utilize user data to better serve ads and to better sell products is Amazon. And so Amazon makes the most sense because they're not going to try, like they're not going to have the same problem that Vessel had or that vid.me, where they were trying to make a video streaming platform from the ground up that could actually pay for itself. They can't. But Facebook can mine for user data. YouTube can mine for user data, and an open Amazon tube can mine for user data. So they can use that in another way as a way to sell other products and services. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think the potential for competition makes sense from a company like Amazon. I'll be curious to see if it actually is executed next year, or if we just see something like, oh, we're going to make Twitch better. I can see if that actually works. But we have a huge user base on YouTube that's really pissed off. And your point on beauty bloggers, lifestyle video creators, vloggers, and especially going back to Sam's point about YouTube for kids. Don't we think Amazon's going to come out the gate with something that they learned from those mistakes, while Google has their sights set on YouTube TV, YouTube Red, things like that? They don't have their sights on actually improving the service for smaller content creators. They have their sights set on being a bigger distribution channel like Netflix. And that's where they're going to get hammered with this if we can see Amazon mount some real competition.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Netflix, and thank you for bringing that up, I think one of the other things in 2018 is we are going to see the proliferation of just some very interesting content material on streaming networks, Netflix included, as one of the major spearheads. The fact that now you have, I think for the creative side and being either a writer, if you have a script idea, being in that Hollywood creative side, there's now an avenue to say, hey, I have an idea. I've had this idea for a long time. I can definitely make a show or movie for it now. It's not like before where you had the more rigid structure of studios, networks, and things like that. And I think because users and most people are cutting the cord, and we talked about cutting the cord in 2017, 2018, it's going to move to the next extent. You're going to see just original content spearhead more I think in 2018 across different networks, be it Netflix, be it Hulu, even CBS All Access that has Star Trek Discovery. I think you're going to see a lot of that come through. And going back to YouTube I don't think they have the right vision for exactly what that kind of content is going against these kind of big juggernauts, because I don't think they understand that when you go into that realm, nobody wants user-generated content. We want a polished show. We want something that looks like, when Star Trek Discovery was first, we saw the first hints, we were all complaining. I mean, I complained too. And then we saw the show, we're like, oh man, you guys spend money. Thank you. Okay, I am watching this, And YouTube, I don't think has understood that fact that when you go to the TV realm or you're going to compete in that realm, even if you're using user-generated individuals from a smaller basis, you must put the money to make it feel like this is the next best thing, because you're going to have that kind of competition. And I think that arena is going to change because we are seeing a lot of just different types of shows and movies and things like that. Like the movie Bright, go watch it. It's great. Don't mind everybody else. I just had to do that plug in because I'm tired of people saying that movie sucks because they're dumb.
Wow, if you don't agree with me, then you're dumb.
I know. Just joking.
Oh, man. But yeah, no, you guys are right. There's just so much coming up. Cut cutting and the whole idea of YouTube beginning to feel as though, like I said, it feels as though they've lost a step. It feels as though they're no longer the innovators that they used to be. And they definitely need an answers to the titans that they're going to be facing up against in 2018, because everyone's going to be gunning for that YouTube space in 2018. And if Amazon can grab it, oh boy, I think Amazon would rise quickly up the rank. I think right now, is there even who's the number 2 when it comes to streaming content right now? Isn't that like Facebook?
I mean, what do you mean by streaming content? As in,
well, it depends on what we're defining streaming content. If it's like sort of studio produced style content,
no, user generated content.
I would be willing to bet it's Facebook. Yeah,
probably Facebook.
Yeah. And you see, the answer is probably Facebook. Just imagine if we finally get an answer oh, it's Amazon and they're gaining next year. That would definitely put at least one nail in the coffin of Google's dominance in that space. So they have to, YouTube's dominance in that space. So they have to pay attention.
Well, I already think if Amazon comes off firing on all cylinders and it's looking real good, they are going to lose significant market share that they're not going to be able to necessarily get back. And it's just going to be that nail that it took because people are frustrated to the point that they're just going to jump just because they want to stick it to Google, not necessarily because Amazon will be that much better. They'll just want to get away from them, or will want to be on Amazon's side to try and take Google down or something like that. Because the other big thing has been obviously the demonetization and the way they've handled that. I don't think it's in the tech space. It's hit us, but not at the heavy-handed level that it's hit other genres out there that have been getting demonetized. The worst we got was the whole iPhone disabled thing, which was iPhone X unboxings getting disabled, which was pure stupidity beyond that. But it shows you how broken the algorithm really is. But other people have been dealing with that demonetization issue that's been going on, not just this year, not just the year before, but it's been going on for at least the last 3 years or so, of people complaining about this auto demonetization and these things happening to their channels. And Google has not put any real good solid answer out there as to why. And because we all know that if ads aren't playing and views are coming in, revenue isn't coming in at the same time. There's a huge chance for a loss of revenue that way. That even if they put the ads back on, people are losing tons of money or thousands of dollars that they could have earned with it because YouTube messed up an algorithm because they went heavy-handed on things. Or
I mean, yeah, you make the most money in the first 24 hours now on YouTube. That's just pretty good, so.
Yeah, and that's right prime when your video is most likely to be demonetized.
I saw somebody yesterday said that he was uploading his video, and as it was uploading, it got demonetized.
They'll nail you.
It's like, you guys, have you finished scanning? It's uploaded. It's not even there. They saw like 10 seconds of video,
the title of the video is "Everything is Beautiful and People Are Lovely," and YouTube was like, "No,
algorithm said fucked up,
demonetize."
All right, guys. I think we've done quite a bit in our wrap up, and I look forward to 2018. Want to thank everyone this year for watching. Appreciate guys for chiming in the chat. It's always fun to have you guys, as always. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Sam, for, of course, being lovely hosts. We will continue again next year, season 5 of the show.
We've been doing this for a while, guys. I'm really proud of us. I think 2017, a great success was us keeping it together despite incredible odds.
Yes.
2018, the goal should be to find a better service to do this with.
It's the better service. There are a couple of things I am going to do on my side in 2018, since I didn't do it effectively this year. I promise that it will be available as an audio podcast on both iTunes and Google Play, starting from the very first show, which would be on the, actually it's not even next week, right?
23rd.
On the 23rd, yeah. I was gonna say, I was like, wait, no, it's actually.
gotta go to see.
No, hold on. Let me. That's December. Hold on a second. The 20th, most likely.
Yeah, our first show will be on the 20th of January, because
we're off for 2 weeks for CES because everyone's traveling on. We'll all be traveling both those Saturdays.
Saturdays, yes. So we will have audio podcasts. We will also try and look for better ways to improve our audio and video. Maybe look for a different platform to do this and then upload. We'll look at different avenues, but it still will be here on YouTube, so you guys can watch and chime in, and we'll let you know ahead of time. Before we finish up, I just want to, of course, do our usual roundup of what we have on the channels right now and what we can expect come next week, because yes, next week we'll still be making videos. So I'm going to start off with you, Mr. Juan Magnell.
So Pocket Now, we just finally got our review out on the Axon M. That kind of just fell between the cracks on all of our year-end coverage, but that's finally out now. On my personal channel, I've had a couple political vlogs up about tech and politics. I'm going to be following up on some of those stories, wrapping up the year, especially as we get through things like loot boxes and gaming and net neutrality. But I'm also looking at trying to revisit some videos too. Like I've been spending a little time with my Lumia 1020, just whether or not a camera like this can still exist, it can still compete against newer performers. And then I want to say it was about 3 or 4 years ago, I produced a video comparing smartphones to DSLRs. Is that, you remember that was like a thing that people kept doing? Like, oh my God, is this phone as good as the real camera? So I'm going to revisit that concept too, in light of all of these phones that now have like software bokeh modes and things like that. So that'll be out probably. I'm gonna try and shoot it and get it out before CES, but I don't know if I'll be able to cobble that all together. We just had another episode of the Geek Book Club broadcast. You can subscribe to that podcast on iTunes and Google Play, and we talked about a book from Cory Doctorow dealing with government paranoia and terrorism, and it's a young adult novel, and you can pick it up for free. He actually released it under a Creative Commons copyright, so you can pick it up for free. And lastly, I just want to throw a little plug out to a Reddit experiment that me and a couple friends are trying to start. It's a subreddit called Glowing Rectangles, and it's a place for people to share content from smaller producers. So, if you go to our Android, you're going to see a ton of links from The Verge and MKBHD and people who have built up some amazing fan bases, but it's not always the best place to try and find new, smaller, up-and-coming content producers and bloggers. And so we're going to try and resurrect this Reddit community and see if we can use it as a platform for discovery and to celebrate the producers that we all know and love who don't get enough exposure. And that's Reddit r/glowing rectangles. We've already got a couple posts up there for some really great people. And I hope you guys will check it out and share and upvote and contribute to that community too.
Sweet. That sounds cool. Sam would be there because he's the only one on our team on Reddit.
Well, damn.
No, I mean, it's true, though.
I use the Reddits.
Yeah. Warren, how about you?
So I've been so swamped with the holidays, work, and everything else, and building this damn computer. You've heard me go through the trials and tribulation, especially with that damn case I had to change. That I'll probably, I don't have anything right now, but next week there'll be starting at the new year, there's going to be like a content bomb of things, just all videos, maybe 1 or 2 videos a day of just stuff that backlog that I want to release out there leading up into CES, and obviously CES videos coming up the following week after that. I'm also in the process of possibly creating a different channel on some different topics that I'm sort of working through right now. Don't have anything to announce just yet, but something new could be starting up soon as I kind of work through that. But that's pretty much all that I have.
Cool. On my end, I have a few videos from before Christmas till now. I have my review of Bright. Go check it out. Like I said, go watch the movie since I said I liked it. So, I mean, that's final word. I also have a sponsored video from Samsung with Smart Things, basically using that in my home. I've been using Smart Things for quite a bit of time. So, it was actually fun to actually do this video and shoot it that way. I'd love you guys to check it out. Let me know what you think of the style, because I'm trying to do different styles for different video sets. Adam Gao did an impressions of the Mi Mix 2, which has some really, really thin bezels and probably one of the biggest screen to body ratios. We did our Flashpoint 45-day review on the iPhone X. So if you're looking to pick up the device and wondering how it would be after someone has used it for more than 30 days, definitely check that out.
For more than a week.
We have our best gaming headset edition for 2017. 5 gaming headsets in that, and surprisingly, all of them are under $150. So
impressive.
Yeah, definitely check that out. And finally, I deemed my best smartphone camera of 2017 is the Pixel 2. You could not watch the video since I said that's the best camera, but you could check it out to see some of the images that we captured with it and how I came to that conclusion of why I think it's the best camera, both front and back, for a smartphone. Next week, I will be dropping my review on the 49-inch monitor. So if you want to check that out, that will be up sometime next week. And then I'm also doing a review of a little eGPU. It's really small. It's about this big. And I think that, and it's funny now I remember that, but I think that will change the way we deal with things like Surfaces and thin and Ultrabooks come next year. Because sorry?
Speaking of that, one of my friends just got a eGPU and he's absolutely sold on it, especially for LAN partying. He was absolutely sold on it.
Yeah, I am too. I'll put this out now. The only problem I have with it is Adobe, and they don't support stuff well, so I really can't edit video properly. But I can game like hell on that thing. So you'll see it next week at some point in time. Other than that, it will be CES, so we will be at the show at some capacity. So definitely check out all the channels. Starting off with Mr. Juan Bagnell. You can find him on Some Gadget Guy. That is his channel on YouTube. He also hosts a show on Newegg, and that's on Thursdays on Newegg's channel. You can follow him on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It is Some Gadget Guy, and his videos are now on his movie videos. I can't remember where is it again?
Oh yeah, so we just resurrected another episode of Movies You May Have Missed, and I want to throw a special plug to archive.org. They're doing a fundraising drive, and Archive's mission is one that I feel is vitally important in this era of fake news, where they're literally backing up the internet. So if you have the means and you're looking for a cause to contribute to, I would wholeheartedly recommend chipping a couple dollars to Archive. They're a phenomenal resource for looking at the history of how content has been produced on the internet. And plus, they've got a ton of really cool, like, old public domain videos and movies and audio recordings, and they're a treasure trove of content to chew through. So please continue supporting them, because they're also the only site that we can upload this movie podcast to.
Cool. And you can also check out and follow Mr. Warren Bowman from BW1.com. That is his YouTube channel. His website is also BW1.com, and you can follow him on all his social media outlets, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. He doesn't use Snapchat. It is BW1.com.
You'll never find me on Snapchat.
And of course, we have Sam, who is part of the Booredatwork network. You can find his videos there on Booredatwork, as well as also follow him on Twitter. It is _man. And yeah, he's also on Facebook, but I am not giving you his Facebook page.
Oh, heck no.
Yeah.
I think Instagram is the real Black Iron Man, I believe.
Yeah, it's the real Black Iron Man on Instagram, because there's a fake one running out there.
There's a fake one running out there, man. You gotta make sure you get the right Iron Man. You gotta make sure.
Be careful, kids. Be careful, kids. And of course, it's Booredatwork here on my side on YouTube. The website is Booredatwork. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook is also Booredatwork. Thank you very much, guys. If you are in the Northeast, stay warm. It is cold. It is freezing.
Very cold.
Otherwise, have a very happy new year. Celebrate safely. Get back safely so we can see you on the 20th of January, I believe is the date. And the show will be back for season 5. We'll be all here and we are ready to roll. So enjoy your entertainment.
Bang.